Very cool.
It is very
So it's like
cool.
Instagram podcast, basically.
Kind of, yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
cool, bet.
All right.
Super fun.
Welcome to Photography Chat with Merlin. Photography Chat with Merlin.
All right.
Yay!
Welcome to another episode of Photography Chat. We're in season 3, episode 7, I think. Yeah. 7 or 8. I don't know. I'm losing track. My memory is terrible these days, guys. Episode 8.
Blur,
Sorry, my bad. We're at episode 8, and we're here with Dakota. Do you want to take a moment to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Dakota Lee. I've been a full-time model for about 7 years. About 3 years ago, I started running like photo adventures, photo workshops, variety of just different photo experiences, basically. And I want to say 2 years ago is when I took the plunge into like trying to do the photography thing, like on the other side of the lens. So I've been booking work a lot as a photographer as of late. And I guess I'm not a full-time model anymore because I kind of do all three things. I'm an event producer, model, and photographer, and I'm kind of shifting into photography more as of late.
That's pretty cool. So you got into photography through modeling then?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think like 30 years old, and yeah, I was 30 and had no delusions of grandeur to like become a model. But, you know, somebody saw me online and they were like, hey, I like your face. Like, and I'm kind of looking for not professional models because I have a certain idea for what I want. So would you be interested in trying this project out? And him and I ended up becoming pretty good friends. I worked with him, I think, about 5 or 6 times total. But like other people saw me. It's like really hard. So I have like really bad ADHD. And like when people like say things, I'm like, I can totally keep a conversation, and then like people say things.
It is a little overwhelming sometimes, and you know, I find it tough too because like last year in the pandemic, I was in a car accident and got like a head injury, and so
like
it's
a concussion. Or...
Yeah, it was like a major concussion that like it took me out of work for like 6 months.
Oh my God.
Yeah, brain injuries are like nothing to fuck around with. And so it's like sometimes it's a little overwhelming to like keep up with the chat while holding a conversation. Wow. And yeah, it's I've had some like interesting DMs for people that got like upset at me because like I didn't address them properly when they had a question in here, and I'm just like, hey man, I'm like a one-man show here. I'm
trying my best, damn it.
Yeah, I'm doing my best.
Not good enough.
And I do this for free. It's out of the love, you know. So it's I don't know. It's interesting. So I can understand that, like, you know, it's hard to keep up with it, but it's also kind of cool. Like I like this format. Opposed to like I've done a couple of other just like straight podcasts where you just like basically get on a Zoom with a couple of people, and like those are fun because like you're having a conversation with them. But I like this because people can interact, and that's kind of like a fun thing.
Yeah. Also, I'm seeing like a lot of people that I know. Hi, everybody. Like, it's really cool. Hold on. Can I scroll? Wait. So I've never done this for like anyone who's watching this. I've literally never done an Instagram live. So, but
yeah,
I'm like,
you can scroll up. Yeah. So you can.
Wait, how do you do that? Oh, there we go. Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. So John, yes, we did discuss shooting. Hold on. Mike is here. Hello. Entitled people. It's your show. It's my party. Okay. I'm back to focusing on the okay. So wait, what were we talking about? You were talking about
What started getting, so you were talking about how you got into the modeling and it was like totally unexpected.
Yeah, it totally was. So like from that work, like other people started reaching out to me and they were like, hey, do you want to shoot? Like, I like your look. Do you want to create something? And I'm like, cool. And no one really approached me as like, do you want to model for me? It was like, hey, I have this photo idea. Do you want to help me with it? So I still didn't consider myself a model, but then like after about a year of doing trade shoots just for fun, I remember going to Philadelphia and I drove like hours and like paid tolls just to have this photographer like be really mean to me. And like I went with my friend and he was like, why aren't you getting paid to do this? Like you are driving all this way. And it was like, I have a son. So I was like taking time away from my kid. And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, old dude, like there's no one that's going to hire me. Right. That's what I thought. Like, I thought like all models must be like 5'9" and like a 22-inch waist and like really like unattainably beautiful. And so it was like this interesting experience when I transitioned into like hired work where there's a whole range of different looks and heights and weights and you meet models in person and they don't like, they're still beautiful, but like they're not as intimidating. And a lot of women are really cool and smart and like everything I thought about modeling like was just so different than when I finally started experiencing it. It was really cool.
That's interesting. Because, yeah, I guess there is that whole, like, sort of, like, stigma of beauty standards and all of that where, like, it can seem very intimidating and kind of, like, you know, scary. And that's, you know, there's that sort of one look. But I don't know. I don't think 30's that old. Like, being 40 now, like, I'd kill to be 30 again.
I would kill to be like 21 again or like 19 so I can go back to college and become like a doctor or something. Like just like knowing what I know about like the medical stuff and like my own path of health and lack thereof. I like really wish that I could have maybe gone back to like to do medical school or like become a psychologist or something, but I'm like so lazy, like getting a doctorate just sounds like something I would not have the attention. So it's like a lot of school. So
it's a heavy investment. Like I have a friend who has their doctorate and like she's invested most of her life into it. My partner of sorts, she's been looking at possibly getting her doctorate and like she's already invested so much to get her master's. Like it's kind of wild. But on that point, has anyone ever asked you that question where it's like, would you rather be given like, say, $500 million, but you're immediately 70 years old, or go back to being 10 years old, knowing everything that you know today?
Oh, definitely 10 years old. Like there's no doubt about that. You know, like absolutely 100%. I mean, what are you going to do with $500 million if you can only enjoy it for like 10 years, right? Like, what's the point of it?
That's true.
I guess you can pass it on. Actually, well, when it comes to my kid, maybe I would take the money because then like I have like multiple generations of people in my family who would be so fucking set. Oh, that's fine. I can't curse because it's Instagram. Fuck.
Oh, you can fucking curse. I don't care. I love swearing. Swearing is the best. Fuck, shit, like bitch, asshole. You know.
I don't give a fuck about yeah.
Exactly.
No, I don't give a shit about fuck.
There's that skit from like forever ago where they talk about fuck being like the most versatile word in the English language because you could fucking use it in like any kind of context. It's like the best.
It is the most satisfying and wonderful word ever created. I love the word fuck. It is the greatest.
It's the great, and swearing's the best. Like, you know, I'm a somewhat professional person in my daily life, and I love fucking swearing in meetings because like people are like, oh my god, and I'm like, whatever, fire me. Like, you know, everyone else loves fucking swearing. Why aren't you doing it right now? It's like, we all know you're savages. Come on.
Yeah, it's always funny working with new people, and I'm like, I'll say fuck, and I'm like, oh god, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that. And they're like, I don't fucking care. But then, I mean, it's very rare that people are like, oh, that's fine, and then you can tell they're not okay with it. So I'm like, Okay. Like,
The only time I've ever gotten in trouble for like some kind of like bad words, it wasn't even like fuck or like an offensive like word particularly. Like, I mean, the words individually weren't offensive, but the way that I structured them, I guess, offended someone. And I like referred to something being balls deep during a presentation, and that got me in trouble.
oh my God, that's
not
great.
all of the swearing I did leading up to the balls deep moment, but just balls deep was what got me in trouble. Who would have
That's
thought?
hilarious. Well, I say like when like, you know, that person could suck my dick, and like people are like so offended by that because they're like, you don't even have a dick, and I'm like, well, I could strap one on. And
It's
then
like, how do you know? I've got a fucking bigger dick than you, bitch.
Yeah. By the way you're acting, bro, I got a bigger dick than you. That's right. Oh, I like that. I'm gonna use that.
Exactly. I mean, it's just a state of mind. Like,
It is. See, it's that vibe.
and see, that's what I've never understood, why people use like being a pussy as an insult, because like that one I've never been able to wrap my mind around it, because it's like, what is like the most powerful like human thing? It's like, you know, vaginas go through a lot of fucking abuse, and it's like, you know, a guy gets like
comes out of that thing.
Exactly. And like, I've seen some big-headed kids, so it's like, you know, some people have gone through some like wicked trauma, and then they're still dealing with all of the rest of the child rearing. And it's like, you flick a guy in the wiener the wrong way, and he's like, you know, fucking crying for like a month about it. Like, you know, it's just yeah. You know, it should be like, you know, you're being a real dick right now, but it's like not in a way of like, you know, you're being an asshole, but it's just like you're really weak because you're a penis.
I want to like explain that to people. Like, you're being a real dick right now. You know, like a penis, like, because they're weak, because like if you touch them, I just want to like make it really super awkward.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
people.
It's like, you know, or it could be like, you know, you're being really flaccid right now. Like, are you embarrassed? Like, you know. Did someone hurt your feelings? Like, show me on the doll where you were abused.
Oh my God, that's great. Yes, please. That's hilarious.
Exactly. Like, I've never understood those kinds of insults. And it's just like the whole, like, you know, men being stronger than women and blah, blah, blah. I've met some really, like, mighty strong women in my life. Not only physically, but, like, emotionally as well, too. Like, you know.
Yeah, my mom is actually the strongest person I know. That woman has like a will of like irons. Like, dude, like it's just, she's so stubborn and she's super strong. Like, not even just physically, like she's freakishly strong for a woman, like bizarrely strong. But also she's just like has that iron will. Man, I've never seen anything like it. Like, she gave birth to, you know, all the kids she had, including me. Well, I was C-section, but initially it was, you know, no epidural. She's like, well, I didn't want to, you know, risk anything happening to the kids. So, you know, you shouldn't really have an epidural. And I'm like, fuck that, man. Like at 3 centimeters, I'm like, dude, give me the drugs.
Give me all of the drugs.
Give me all of your drugs, please.
But here's the thing, you never want to piss off a mama bear. Like, you know. Yeah. My mom's like Danny DeVito size, and she still terrifies me, and she's like 70.
Yeah, dude, legit.
And, you know, she was so intense that she joined, like, the military and reserves, and, like, she really found her way there, where it's like, she loved the fucking combat trips where they go and, like, do, like, the training and fuck around with guns and stuff, and I'm like, you scare me sometimes, but, yeah. I also immensely appreciate my mother, and I miss her a lot. But maybe I'll see her this year. You know, COVID, they've been kind of stuck in the Philippines for the last couple of years, so maybe.
Oh, so she's in the Philippines?
Yeah, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to retire on the other side of the world from, like, their grandkids and stuff. So it's like, it's good for them because it's cheap, but it's also meant that, like, you know, they haven't been home for, like, 2.5 years, something like that. However long.
Did they move like right before the pandemic, basically?
No, they retired there a few years back.
Okay.
And it's been kind of funny because they're like, oh, come visit. And I'm like, fuck, I don't know. Like, if I'm going to spend thousands of dollars to fly anywhere, it's not to have a fight with you guys in a different country. Like,
right.
I can do that for free over Facebook Messenger. Like,
I know a photographer who actually from Baltimore. He's from the Philippines, and he'll come back to Baltimore to work for like a couple months, and then he just like takes all of that money and goes to the Philippines and like lives like a king for like 2 months, and then comes back here, makes his money, goes back there, like, and he like does these travel blogs. So I've been like kind of fangirl, like watching his blog, because it's like so cool, these places that he's going to, and he has like the drones and everything like that.
That's cool.
And like, man, the locations that he goes to though are just like unbelievably beautiful. Like, it's so nice.
There's some like wicked beautiful stuff out there. I saw, like, I've been to the mother country once. I spent 3 weeks there with my parents in like 2008. And saw some really cool shit, but my problem with it is like the disparity of between the rich and the poor that they have there, and in how what's the word, when they like take advantage of people. I can't think of that word right now.
Exploit.
Yeah, how exploitative it is. It was just really fucking weird. Like, my cousin was like, "Hey, let's go to the driving range," and I'm like, "That seems innocuous enough. Like, I like hitting balls and like, you know, making things like fly everywhere." And then we get there, and it looked like a normal driving range you'd see here in like, you know, North America, except it was all dirt, and there was these dugouts next to where you hit the ball. And I was like, "What's up with the dugout?" And he's like, "You'll see in a minute." And this little kid comes out and crawls into the dugout and then makes like a little ball of like a little pile of dirt and puts the ball on it and then like covers his face up. And I was like, no, I can't be part of like child labor. This seems really fucking weird. And he's like, dude, you have to. And I'm like, why? He's like, well, if you don't, then he doesn't get money, and then his family doesn't get money. And I was like, this is really shitty. I feel really fucked up about this. And I gave like the kid like all of the money that I had, because I just like, I'm like, just take it and like don't be here and have people hit balls at you. This is fucked up. I want to go back home.
Yeah.
it was super fucking weird. And so it's like, it's super cheap to live there. And that's like the allure of it, but all like the insidious, like just the insidiousness, or I can't say
insidiousness.
There we go. That's kind of like a weird thing, and I just don't like that. Like, but that my dad loves it, because he's like, oh yeah, I get like my $5 massages and, you know, $3 bottles of whiskey, and but the like from a tourism perspective, it is really cool there. Like, Boracay is like absolutely beautiful, like the white sand beaches and stuff, and like there's lots of cool caves and things to check out, and like, you know, if you're into that sort of lifestyle kind of thing, there's lots of places where you could go make content for that. So it's like I could see the attraction of the Philippines for that kind of stuff. Yeah. Anyway, sorry, that was like a huge like zoop. We kind of deked off there.
I meander like crazy. You will never have like a linear conversation with me ever. It'll be like, we could be like talking about the most important thing ever, and I'll be like, oh my God, squirrel. And then like, we'll like meander for like 10 minutes, and then I'll be like, oh wait, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, something really important. And like, it's just,
Yeah, I have like big Sagittarius energy with that too, where it's like I just kind of like go on these like weird tangents and shit when I'm like, you know, telling stories. And then I have like a propensity to end up meeting other people who like to meander in stories. So it's like, you know,
we get each other, kindred spirits.
And so it's like you're trying to tell a story that really should only probably take about like 15 or 20 minutes. And it's like 4 hours later, you've heard all of these other tangents and you still haven't gotten to your 15-minute story. But it's always a lot of fun, you know?
Yeah.
I enjoy that kind of stuff, because it's nice to get to know people and like hear about their like little anecdotes and stuff like that. So I was curious, so like from modeling, what made you decide to jump behind the camera?
I wanted more creative control, and I was tired of waiting for photographers to try new things. Like I had all these concepts in my head that I really wanted to try, and I had like very specific ideas, and I would I would either wait for a photographer to shoot this stuff, right? and they would shoot it, but it wouldn't be exactly what I wanted because it's my idea. Like, you know, I can explain it to an extent, but it's not that I was disappointed per se, but I'm like, oh, that's cool, but that's like not what I was going for. Mm-hmm. So I was like, you know, if I'm going to have more creative control and be able to create my own personal projects, instead of waiting for trade or waiting for someone to hire me who wants my concept, I just started shooting stuff myself. And I started off with a bang. Like there was a lot of immediate gratification. Since I'd worked so long as a model, I already understood lighting to an extent. I understood composition overall. Okay. And I had a slight concept of the exposure triangle, and I started on manual. I never even really once. I think I tried aperture priority and just fucking hated it. I don't know why.
Why did you hate it?
I don't know. I think I'm just a control freak. Like I wanted to really learn the exposure triangle, and I wanted to have that flexibility because sometimes if you do it on auto, that's not what is in your brain. Like you might want to intentionally underexpose or overexpose, and I never do that. But you might want to, you know. But I do sometimes to make it moodier. I will underexpose, right? Mm-hmm. And I wanted that like creative control, so I just completely started on auto, on manual. But I started off well. I mean, I had my first camera was I had this like Canon T1 collecting dust like in my closet for like ever that I never used. So I pulled it out and, you know, like the.
Why was it collecting dust?
Because I just never really had a whole lot of interest, I guess, in shooting. I really like modeling, like a lot. Like I love modeling for a myriad of reasons. But I just, you know, I got to the point where I'm like, hey man, you know, it's time. Also photographers, that, you know, they don't have to, you know, I can transition to becoming a photographer and I don't have to keep my measurements or email like 100 people when I cut my hair, or, you know, I can eat a bunch of bad food and break out and not have to worry, oh my God, I have a big gig in 3 days and I look awful, you know? And it's like, it's just, you know, I love modeling, but also when you're a brand, like when you've created a reputation as looking a certain way with my measurements, so it's not really about like, I can't gain weight, but I have to kind of always keep my same measurements because in 3 months I have a project with a dress that's going to fit what I look like now. So I love what I do, but I want the freedom to have more control over my body again.
Yeah.
So, and I'm older, you know, I'm in my late 30s and, I don't want to do this forever.
I would have never guessed late 30s. Like, you know.
It's the oily Italian skin, darling. That's what it is.
I get
good
that.
For the wrinkles. Okay.
Yeah, like that. I've never had to deal with that. And I don't think a lot of like, you know, well, any of the photographers really have to like deal with that kind of thing where it's like someone else has so much say over like your personal life because your livelihood's attached to it. Like that would be
exactly.
That'd be such a weird experience. Like
you really don't feel like you own your body, you know? And, you know, when I started out modeling, I did a lot of art nude. Like that was almost all that I did. And I still do it on occasion. I don't do it nearly as much as I used to. I mean, not even close, man. And that's another big part of it is like, you know, I created this brand as a fine art model and, I felt like other people were owning my nude body and it felt very invasive eventually. Like, you know, because for every 10 photographers, there's one. Oh, you okay?
I just have to close the window. It's getting cold.
Where are you now? You're not in Toronto. You said you moved, right?
Sorry, just a second. I just had to. I had the window open to get some fresh air, and then the sun just disappeared, and it got like so fucking cold. So
wait, where are you now?
I live in Vancouver now.
Wait, so what time is it there?
It is 5:27.
Damn. So my dumbass didn't even realize how different of a time zone it was. Like, it's because it's 8:30 here.
Yeah, it's a 3-hour difference between East and West Coast. Yeah, I miss Toronto a lot. Like, it's... I wonder sometimes if I made a mistake moving back here. But also, like... kind of a bonus. Like, I was debating leaving Vancouver to go back, and then I got into like this studio space that I'm in right now, and it's like super cheap, and I would have never found anything like that in Toronto. So
you showed me pictures of that space, right?
Yeah So it's
yeah.
It's gotten to a point now where I can actually start using it, and I did a shoot here the other weekend. It was fun. And I recorded last week's episode here, and it's just nice to have somewhere else to go, because like I live in a basement studio apartment, and I work from home, and so it's like I sit in front of my computer all day, and the last thing I really want to do is spend more time sitting in front of it when I'm trying to do creative stuff. So it's nice to just have a different place to go where I can just like, this is creative stuff only, and like work stays at home or wherever. Like, you know, I don't even bring my work
designated creative space.
Yeah, like I don't even bring my work phone here, because it's like I don't like, this place will never be tainted by my day job. Like, it just nope.
Dirty day job.
Exactly, like dirty day job, bad.
Dirty day.
Yeah. But I was curious. You were mentioning all the art nude stuff, and I've always been kind of curious about that one, to understand like the perspective from the model of what that's like, because I've kind of noticed like a lot of the people that do art nudes kind of being like those like guy with camera types.
Yeah, you have to be careful. There's a lot of GWCs out there.
Yeah.
It's not as prevalent in other countries. Like in America, it's like a dime a dozen. So there's a lot of gigs I turn down. In Toronto, I've only been to Toronto, so I don't have any experience with other Canadian like areas, other areas in Canada. But in Toronto, you have a lot of great photographers there. You know, it's kind of that same. It's almost like it's very similar vibe to Europe. Okay. And it's same with Europe. You have a lot of really wonderful photographers. It's not GWC nearly as much. I mean, they're people who really care about what they're creating, and you can see the quality in their work. I mean, they really care about, and they believe in the work that they are creating. I think with American society, there's this sort of paradox, right, of like us finding the nude figure so titillating and sexual, but at the same time having a lot of repressed, toxic, puritanical views on sex. So it's like this really weird juxtaposition. And I think what happens is you have a lot of people with repressed, shameful ideals of sex, and that comes out in a variety of ways, and one of them being they pick up a fucking camera and they just want to hire a hot girl and take pictures of her naked and call themselves artists, when we all know that's not true.
Shame.
You can't fool us, okay, with your crappy lighting and some chick butt. It's like if I had $1 for like every photographer who just wants to photograph a chick naked by a window and like thigh highs, I would be able to quit my job. I can see who's here. Herman. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I know all of these people. I know some of them though.
There's one person
Anyway,
that says they want to
I-
travel more. They haven't been to Canada in 10 or so years. I think they also said they wanted to shoot with you and regretted not shooting with you. Someone said Parmesan.
I
don't know
cannot
what that's
scroll up.
about.
I'm sorry. I don't know this thing, but I can see who's watching, but I can't, like, it won't let me. I don't know how to do this. I'm trying.
No,
I don't
it's-
technology.
it's okay. I'll deal with what comes through on that stuff. You don't worry.
Thank you.
You just have to focus on chit chatting here.
Okay. I'm trying.
Yeah, I was always scared to start taking photos of people, especially in the studio environment, because of that whole like guy with camera thing, and I didn't want to end up being like guilty by association with that kind of thing, because when the Me Too stuff was really blowing up in Toronto a couple of years back, like it got really bad for a bunch of photographers that were like, you know, obviously kind of sketchy.
Yeah.
And like there was one that I was friends with that I just like, you know, we're not friends anymore, but his photos were just kind of like, like, it's like, cool. So you've got someone to get naked and you made them do the same poses as the last person that you got naked. And so you just have like the same pictures of different butts, but it's the same. Like it's,
Ass-tographers, I think, is what they're...
yeah, and it was just, I
coin.
always felt bad, like when we were friends, I always kind of felt a bit bad about it, because he's like, hey, did you like my last post? And I'm like, in my head, I'm like, not really. But it's like, oh shit, I didn't see it, I'll go take a look. Fuck. Like,
oh god, that's a very kind way to say, no, your work is shit, bro.
oh, it kind of killed me. Like, I felt really bad because like he seemed like an interesting cat, and then I did that like thing that you usually don't do. Like when you know someone professionally, you should just like leave it there sometimes. But I was like, hey, this guy seems like pretty cool. Maybe we could like actually be friends. And so I was like, let's go for coffee sometimes, and immediately almost regretted it. I was just like, oh, like the dude kind of had some like incel-y kind of
oh yeah,
vibes.
dude. Oh,
and I was like, maybe he doesn't know that. And so I was like, maybe I can like help redeem him. And then it was just like, no, it was bad. And I was just like, man, like you shouldn't be interacting with women if you have these views. And like even he would even say things like, oh, like I wanted to shoot with that person, but they like, you know, got fillers or they got a boob job and that just like ruined them for me. And I'm like, you're like a fucking hobbit, man. Like, you know, you have no opinion that matters on what these people do with their body. It's 100% up to them. If putting fillers in, getting boob jobs, but whatever, if that makes them happy, then that's what they're going to fucking do. And all the more power to them, because like, you know, the whole human experience is fucking weird enough as it is. Like we're rotting bags of meat that like wander around for a few decades doing God knows what. So it's like, whatever you got to do to make yourself comfortable in this meat bag, fucking do it. Like,
yeah. I remember when I first started modeling, I mean, I had a good sense of my own boundaries, but I didn't have a good sense of good taste. So I remember just being like, oh my God, wait, somebody wants to pay me like $100 an hour to like pose for them. Like, what? Say what? Like, and it was like me standing in front of a graffiti wall, like naked with combat boots. And I'm like, I was just like, fuck you, because I'm like, do not give a fuck about, like, I have no shame at all. So I'm like, I'm like one of those weirdos who doesn't, like, I'm not a nudist, but like, I don't really see like the big deal about the nude body at all. So like, I didn't give a shit, dude. I'm like, you want to pay me $100 an hour? We're going to work for 4 hours and you want me to stand in front of a graffiti wall? You know, I got you, boo, like kind of deal. So I like, it took me a good couple of years to be like, wait, though, like maybe this work isn't that really good to like align myself with, you know, and maybe I need to put more into, and I was still working with mostly like really good people, you know, like I I linked up with a few just wonderful artists, and we would sometimes, we would do trade, or other times I'd work with people who, would hire me on a very regular basis. God bless those people. I swear, there were like a few people in the beginning of my career that just like loved working with me, and they'd hire me every month, and they were like a dream person to work with, because they were just so kind and wonderful and respectful. And I'm like, wow, you like make this all worth it. Dave Warner, he's not listening in on this, but Dave Warner is like one of my favorite people ever, and is one of the reasons why I even was able to do this professionally. But yeah, I mean, it took me a couple years to really come into my own and be like more selective about who I worked with. And it's still, I think for the most part nowadays, I don't really have any issues. I mean, I can tell in most likely I can tell within the first sentence whether you're going to be a problem or not. So, and I don't really have to take as many modeling gigs anymore, so I can be more selective. So I'm pretty happy with the kind of work that I'm creating now as a model. But it's certainly, there was a learning curve, and it took me a while to get to where I am, for sure.
That's fair. Listen, Armando's here. And Waster of Silver says, high heels in front of a graffiti wall, maybe, but combat boots? I'm like, all right, man, if you want to wear some high heels in front of a graffiti wall, I'll shoot you. Coming to Vancouver. We got tons of graffiti here. let's see how good it looks.
So how are you doing? Like, so what's the scene like out there, man? Like, I've never been there. I've only been to Toronto, which is cool as shit. And honestly, I miss Toronto so much. I miss creating there so much. Like,
Me
anyways.
too.
Yeah, man, Toronto's cool as shit.
It is. And like, other parts of Canada make the jokes that like Toronto is like, the center of the universe and it's so full of itself and blah blah blah. Waster of Silver says he's into it. He's got decent legs, and it's like, I don't care, man. I will do.
How are you seeing these comments? Where are they coming from?
They're just coming in right now.
I don't see any though.
You might have to scroll the other way. I'm not sure. You might still be stuck up. If you flick up until it just stops flicking, that might.
Well, I'm at Film Diary of a Redhead, entitled People, Rolly Eyes. It's just your show, Marlon.
Flick it up, because it's like if you scroll up, it just kind of gets stuck there. So just where it says Film Diary Redhead.
Maybe if I do this. No, that's not it.
No.
I'm sorry. You're just gonna have to tell me the comments, because they're not where. Like, I push up and it doesn't go anywhere, but it's fine. Everything's fine. Okay.
Shit. Oh yeah, Toronto. So yeah, can't like other Canadian cities like have beef with Toronto, and like, I mean, like fucking some shit in Toronto is like cocky. Like, there's this brand where they make these like fucking hoodies and shit where it's like Toronto versus everybody, and it's like, fuck off with that shit. Like, that everyone already thinks that. You don't need to like fucking show that off. But I've always been a West Coast boy. Like, I was born in Alberta and I grew up in British Columbia, and so like Toronto was like a really intense experience for me. And it's like, I visited Toronto for the first time in 2001, and it was like a super fucked up experience for me a little bit, because it was like legit the first time I like saw black people for real. Because like, I grew up in these like small towns where it's like I was the most colored person in the town that I lived in, because it was like a town of like 4,000 people, and it just that
has to be alienating.
It felt a little fucking weird. I was like, oh my god, and I was like so intimidated by the big city, and it was just like, holy shit, like Toronto is so scary. But yeah, and Waster of Silver says he's been there a few times, but he likes Montreal better. Montreal is a more interesting city for sure. But
I really want to go to Montreal. That's on my list for sure.
But Montreal's a different vibe. It's not as multicultural as Toronto is, and that's like what makes Toronto, I think, the most interesting city in Canada, is that it's like truly multicultural. Like, you know, you can go into like different neighborhoods and you can find like, you know, like Caribbean neighborhoods, Jamaican neighborhoods, Polish, Ukrainian, Italian, Portuguese. Like there's this Japanese like kind of like hole in the wall bar in Little Portugal that I used to love going to all the time, called Hanmoto. And right in the corner in front of where Hanmoto is was this like little corner where all the like old Portuguese dudes would like fucking hang out and like smoke and drink, like old dudes. Like I think like the youngest dude there was probably in his like fucking 60s. And it's like, you know, they fucking roll up in their rascal scooters and shit. And it's like, you know, they're listening to like whatever sports shit they're into. And yeah, it was cool to see that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's like, it's really, really multicultural there, where it's like, it's celebrated and it's not just sort of like melted down into into like a homogenous kind of thing. Like Vancouver is not multicultural. It's sort of like, it's just Vancouverish. Like there's just, I don't know. It's kind of in most of like the other Canadian cities are like that too, where it's like melting pot. That's the thing, where it's like, you know, Toronto is more like a mosaic versus a melting pot. And that was like a really cool thing, because there was like lots of interesting opportunities to like actually experience different cultures within the same city. And the art scene was really cool there. It still is. Like COVID's hurt it for sure. But I can imagine. You know, it's very different. Yeah, Vancouver's really white.
So many white people. Oh.
It's like, I don't know. It's kind of, it's different.
That's so funny. That reminds me, like, you know, I used to live right next to DC, and I grew up right next to DC, and like I'm white, but like I remember I lived in West Virginia for a couple of years. So my mom, my brother, and I moved next to my grandma and granddad to live in West Virginia, and it was like such a culture shock. And I'm like, dude, there's like so many white people. Like I've never seen this many white people before in my life. It was like unnerving, and they were like white people. They were like white people, man. Like not even they weren't like city white people. It was like, I'm like, I don't even understand these people. Like, I can't even, like I literally can't understand what they're saying. Like I just like, it was like real country, you know. And it was, sorry, it just reminded me of that experience of like, wow, I can't imagine like living somewhere like that as a person of color, because even I was uncomfortable, and I'm like white. So I don't know. It was just really weird.
Yeah, like that. I felt like that when I went to White Sulphur Springs. Like DC was really cool. I had to go to Falls Church, Virginia for some training when I was like way young. And that was the first time I saw fireflies, and they blew my fucking mind. I was just like,
aren't they beautiful?
They're
so
amazing.
Beautiful.
And me and this other Filipino dude, we were both like, the fuck are these like flying light bulbs? Like we were both losing our fucking minds about it, and everyone thought we were fucking crazy. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, they were amazing. But then, yeah, the white comment thing, like, I felt that hard when I had to go to White Sulphur Springs for a work event. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I work in technical sales, and so it's like every quarter we have our, like, you know, quarterly business reviews and shit. And in the before times, we would travel to, like, interesting places for the...
BC, before COVID?
Before COVID.
Yeah.
Like, and... on this one trip, we were supposed to go to Chicago, and I was fucking stoked because I'm like, I like Chicago. Chicago is fun. And, you know, I was like 100% down for Chicago. And then the sales manager's like, great news, guys. I talked to management, and even though we didn't hit the target we're supposed to, they approved the trip to the Greenbrier. And like all these white dudes on my team, because it was like I was on a team of like 30 people, and there was like 4 colored people on the team, and all like the white dudes were like, fuck yeah, Greenbrier. And my sales guy was like this Filipino dude, Rodney, and he's like, the fuck is a Greenbrier, bro? And I'm like, I don't know. And then we had to Google it, and we're like, it's a fucking golf course in like the fucking hills in like Virginia.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
And it was like really creepy because you had to fly into Roanoke and then drive for like an hour and 45 minutes from the airport in Roanoke to White Sulphur Springs through the fucking mountain range there. I can't remember what it's called.
Oh, wow.
And there's no cell coverage. So it's like...
Yeah, that's in the cut, man. That's in the cut.
Yeah, and it was fucking creepy because like I had never seen so many like fucking Confederate flags and all sorts of shit like waving in there, and I was like, these are some racist ass hills. And like my sales guy Rodney, he's like, bro, I'm fucking scared right now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a little nervous too. Like, I'm glad that like, you know, Enterprise upgraded us. They gave us like the big bad fucking Suburban. So I was like, at least we've got like the Abrams tank of rental cars. So it's like, if anyone tries to fuck with us, we could like smash them with the rental car. But it was super creepy. And
that's how it is in West Virginia for sure. There's a lot of like, it's weird because I live really close to this area called Sharpsburg. I live pretty close to that. So if it's like right before you got into West Virginia, right? And Sharpsburg is like racist. There's like tons of Confederate flags everywhere. It's where the Battle of Antietam happened. So it's the bloodiest battle in the Civil War.
Holy shit.
So yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of like Civil War pride, I guess, there. And then what's funny though is you go literally like 3 miles away from, or maybe 5 miles tops, and you're in the most hippie town of all of West Virginia. It's called Shepherdstown, and it's like quite literally the antithesis of Sharpsburg because it's like it's like hippie dippy. There's like rainbow flags everywhere, like Black Lives Matter, like LGBTQ, TQ, like everything, like ubiquitous, like, you know, love trumps hate, everything like that. But it's really interesting because like just the one town over is the complete opposite of that. It's just fascinating to me. That
is really fascinating.
Yeah.
I don't understand the whole like worshiping the Confederate thing. Like they lost. Like what pride is
They're
there?
traitors.
Yeah.
They're traitors.
Like, you know,
treasonous. Treason.
Celebrate treason. I mean,
how do you?
What's that?
I know, it's so crazy. It's like.
It is crazy. And like, yeah, we just had our own treason fest here in Canada, in Ottawa. Like there was like a bunch of shit going on there, and it's like that finally wound down, and it's just like, you know, that wound down just in time for all this crazy shit in the Ukraine. Like what the hell's going on with the world right now?
That's crazy, dude. Like
it is.
Like I woke up in the morning to that, and I'm like, it's like I don't even know how to process it yet, to be honest. I'm just like, shit, dude, that's heavy.
It is. It's definitely
like that's really heavy.
Yeah. Like I think like we're just all restless right now from the last few years of whatever this is. And it's just like made so many people irritable, and it's just like it's reaching this critical mass where shit's just getting like really fucking weird. And yeah, someone's like, go freedom truckers. You know, they're not freedom truckers. They are domestic terrorists. I don't like that they keep calling it a peaceful protest and that they were like demonstrating peacefully. There was nothing peaceful about what they did. You know, and everything that they did was, you know, more or less domestic terrorism. And, you know, just calling a spade on that one. Like it's a
crazy time, man. I mean, it's been hitting from so many different angles for the last 2 years, and I think people are struggling. You know, they're struggling in a variety of ways, and they're just tired of it. I'm not justifying anything by any means, But it's
No.
just there's been a lot going on, man, and it's like fucking crazy to process all of it. And we've all been isolated, and
Yeah, and we've all lost so much. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's we've lost peoples, we've lost our lives, we've lost our outputs, we've lost our worlds, and like it's it's totally understandable to see how people are getting so wrapped up in these movements and these things, even if they're wrong, because I think the biggest thing that we've all lost through all of this is like communities. And you know, that's something that I've valued immensely, is like the communities photography has introduced me to, and you know, how those communities have changed. Like in the before times, you know, those communities were really in person. So it's like, you know, to be involved in those communities required like travel, and you know, I was very lucky to be able to go like down to the States freely and hang out with like my people and enjoy that kind of stuff. But then, you know, COVID sort of made that impossible. So it's like those communities kind of shifted as everything else did to be virtual. And you know, it's that was like how we crossed paths, was like, I messed around with Clubhouse for a bit, and you know, that was
I haven't
kind of
seen
fun
you
at
on
first.
there in a long time.
It's been a minute. I just
I'm not on there as much anymore.
Well,
honestly.
and that's the problem that I have with it, is it's a huge commitment to spend some time in there. Like it's and I find like I've popped in every now and then, and I find like the rooms get a bit overwhelming sometimes. Yeah. And people get really soapboxy on it. Like I hate those ones where it's like these people that are definitely a bit pretentious telling you how to be successful, and it's just like, you know, your photos are kind of boring. Like, shut up. Like, you know, I'm glad you bought 50,000 followers on Instagram, but that does not make you a fucking legend. You just I've stayed in touch with the real people that I appreciate there. Like, you know, Retro Photo York, I fucking love that guy. Jamie's great. You're great. You know,
Thanks. It was good having you on there too. Yeah, I mean, there's just some cool people there, but I don't have the energy for it as much anymore. And I'm honestly very tunnel visioning my career right now, and I don't really even have I don't have time to just, you know, fuck off on Clubhouse. You know,
it takes a lot of time. So with the tunnel vision, like, what's your focus right now? Like, what direction are you heading with it? Like,
just definitely like pushing the photography business, like, and it's a learning curve. Like, the way that I advertise is different than I would as a model. It's just it's different, a different type of marketing. Like with modeling, it's like very specific. It's like, you know, I know who to reach out to. You know, as a freelance model, as a photographer, in some ways it's great because you have everybody. There's like the whole of everybody that you can market towards, you know, like you can book headshots, you can book weddings, you can, there's a wealth of, you know, everybody wants a photographer, everyone books a photographer, right? So for the, I mean, like within, I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's like, you know, there are a lot of opportunities, but with that come like, how do I reach out to them then? Like, what do I do? Like, do I like reach out to some random motherfucker on Instagram and be like, hey, you're like, do you want to like pay me money to take your photo? Like, that'd be super cool, right? Like, yuck. Like, what the fuck? Like, I don't shoot fashion. I don't have an interest in it. I don't want to be on I don't care about magazines. I don't care about models. And like, I shoot models, but like for my events, but I don't care about being a fashion photographer. It just sounds, no, it's not my jam. Like, you know, so when you don't do that though, like you're marketing to normal people, like, no offense to people who aren't in this industry, but people who are not in this industry, you're marketing to people who are not in this industry.
So if you could do any kind of like photography then out there, if you're choosing, like, what would be like your most ideal, like, favorite thing to work on?
The two things I'm already working on, which are corporate headshots and ballet.
Ballet, interesting.
Yeah, I like working with ballet dancers because you can do anything with them. You can do fine art portraits. You can do, headshots if you wanted to. You can do fashion with them. You can do ballet. You can do weird contortionist poses. I mean, there's so much variety that you have with a dancer, and they have all the grace and body awareness that no one else in the world, in my opinion, has. I mean, there's nothing like working with a dancer. Their level of body awareness is astounding.
That's interesting. So how did you get into shooting ballet stuff?
I don't even remember where it's, I don't even know where it's, how it started. I think like I had hired a ballet dancer. Or no, oh, that's right. I did a shoot with a ballet dancer, and I was watching her, and I was like, whoa, she's like way better than a normal model. Like, holy crap, that's amazing. And then I'm like, maybe I should do a ballet photo workshop. I know how to light people. So by that logic, I should probably be, I just made sure to hire a very good dancer, someone who could pose themselves without me directing them. And I was like addicted from that point on. And I have even though I'm not a dancer, I have a pretty good idea for the climax of their movement. I don't know if it comes from me modeling, but I have a natural ability to sort of like catch them when you're supposed to catch them. That said, when I work with children, I have an instructor with me. So I, have someone, because you can't photograph a dancer just like in any pose. If you're doing dance, it has to be their climax of the pose, right?
Yeah.
Not the before. It's that extension, that full extension. That's when you take the shot. That's the only shot that would really matter to the dancer. I like corporate headshots because I don't work in the corporate world, but I just find it really fascinating, and I like making people who normally hate their photo taken feel really good about themselves. It makes me feel really good to like see them relax with me and see their photo and say like, I love that photo of me. But when they came in, they hated the way they looked. I like that satisfaction. People say that, corporate headshots are boring, but I think there is an art to it. And it's easy in terms of communication. So, I like those things. They can be
boring if you make them boring. Like,
yeah.
But that's an interesting thing because, like, I could see a lot of corporate types like sort of dreading like getting their photo taken. It's like, oh no, I have to like update my LinkedIn because they want us to be more social and like, I have to do this or that or whatever. They keep telling me I have to like share Dell stories, but no, I'm not gonna like pimp out my social media.
Hey Marilyn, I have to go because I have to put my son to bed.
It was great chatting with you.
Yes, I want to do this again. This was so fun. I like having conversations with you. Even though my thing didn't work, I don't know who actually all joined, but
we had all sorts of people come through here. So it's Jamie popped in, and Jamie says, "So true. Dancers are amazing.
They are, aren't they? They're the best." So let's try this again, so I can actually read the comments because I wasn't able to interact with anybody.
Yeah, well, we could definitely get you up on a follow-up one for sure. And then next week I have Danielle from Toronto. She's joining the chat. She's an interesting photographer and mixed media artist as well, who's been working with another friend of mine who's on the chat named Jeremy. And she's sort of learning how to do wheat pastes with his tutelage there. And they've been working on some really cool wheat paste stuff in Toronto. And so she's going to join on the chat. And, thanks for hanging out with me. I'm going to do the outro here so we could officially end things.
Thanks for inviting me. This was fun.
It was great to have you. And, everyone stay safe out there in these crazy times. And just don't be a dick.
The people who joined, thank you for joining, even though I don't know who joined. Only the people in the beginning.
It was a lot of fun. Thank you everyone for tuning in and hanging out. Like, you're what makes this happen. So appreciate y'all. And thank you so much, Dakota, for hanging out. It was great chatting with you. And we'll definitely do it again soon.
Yay. All right. Have a good night.
All right. Take care. Have a good week, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.